Chapter 2. Learned Helplessness. Learned helplessness is one of the most influential concepts in psychology because it explains how capable people can gradually stop trying, not because they are lazy or unintelligent, but because their brain has learned that effort and outcome are disconnected. It is also important to emphasize that psychologists view learned helplessness as a possible response to repeated, uncontrollable adversity, not as an inherent characteristic of any racial, ethnic, or social group. Many people exposed to the same circumstances do not develop it, while others do. The theory was first developed by psychologist Martin Seligman in the late 1960s. The basic idea is simple. Imagine your brain is constantly asking one question: does what I do actually matter? If the answer is repeatedly yes, your brain develops agency. You begin to think, if I study harder, I'll improve. If I work overtime, I'll probably earn more. If I keep applying, eventually I'll find a better job. This creates confidence. Psychologists call this self-efficacy, the belief that your actions can influence your future. Now imagine the opposite. Every important effort seems to fail. You work hard. Nothing changes. You save money. A medical bill wipes it out. You apply for jobs. No one calls. You report a problem and nothing happens. After years of this, the brain starts drawing a different conclusion. Maybe nothing I do really matters. Notice the shift. The person doesn't stop because they're incapable. They stop because their brain has updated its prediction about reality. The brain dislikes wasting energy. Trying requires effort. If effort repeatedly produces no reward, the brain begins conserving energy. This is actually an adaptive process. From an evolutionary standpoint, repeatedly investing energy into unwinnable situations is inefficient. So the brain reduces motivation. The person experiences thoughts like, what's the point? It probably won't work. People like me don't get those opportunities. Why bother? To outsiders, this can resemble laziness. Psychologically, it is often closer to hopelessness. Over time, learned helplessness changes more than behavior. It changes identity. Instead of thinking, this situation is difficult, the person begins thinking, I'm the problem. Psychologists sometimes distinguish between these beliefs. A setback can be interpreted as temporary, things are bad right now. Specific, I'm struggling in this area. Controllable, I can improve. Or it can become permanent, nothing will ever change. Global, everything in my life is hopeless. Personal, I'm simply not capable. The second pattern is much more strongly associated with depression. One of the saddest aspects is that people often stop aiming before they stop dreaming. Imagine someone who once wanted to become an engineer, a lawyer, a business owner. After enough disappointments, the goal quietly changes. Not because they no longer want it, because they no longer believe it is realistic. Their dreams become smaller, not from lack of ability, but from repeated experiences that taught them large aspirations were unlikely to pay off. Consider a fictional man named Darnell. Childhood. Darnell grows up in a neighborhood where many adults work hard but remain financially unstable. His mother works 2 jobs. His uncle has been laid off several times. His grandfather often says, you can do everything right and still lose. As a child, Darnell notices something. Hard work doesn't always seem to produce security. Teenage years. At 16, he wants a part-time job. He applies everywhere. 20 applications, 30, 40. No response. Eventually, someone hires him. 3 months later, the business closes. His first lesson becomes, even when things finally work out, they don't last. Early adulthood. He enrolls in community college. His car breaks down. He misses classes. He falls behind. Then his mother becomes ill. He drops out to help pay the bills. Everyone tells him, you should go back. He wants to. But his experience tells him, every time I try to move forward, something knocks me back. Notice what has happened psychologically. The obstacle isn't simply money, it's his growing expectation that effort will not reliably change outcomes. At 25, a friend encourages him to apply for an apprenticeship. Years earlier, he would have applied immediately. Now his internal dialogue sounds different. They won't pick me. Someone else is more qualified. Why waste the time? He never submits the application. The tragedy is that this rejection comes from inside rather than from the employer. The barrier has become psychological. One day, he meets an older supervisor named Angela. She notices that Darnell is capable but rarely volunteers. She asks, "Why don't you apply for promotions?" He shrugs. "They're going to choose somebody else." Angela replies, "How many times have you actually applied?" He pauses. "None." For the first time, he realizes something important. His expectation is based less on current evidence than on years of accumulated disappointment. Angela helps him prepare an application. He gets rejected, but instead of saying, like, "See, I knew it," she says, "Good. Now let's look at the feedback." 6 months later, he applies again. This time, he gets the job. That single success doesn't erase years of learned helplessness, but it weakens it. His brain starts to update its prediction. Effort can matter after all. Psychologists have found that learned helplessness is not permanent. It can be reversed, but it often requires repeated experiences that reconnect effort with outcome. This is why a good mentor can be transformative. A stable job with clear rewards can build confidence. Achievable goals can restore a sense of agency. Therapy, especially approaches that help people identify and challenge pessimistic explanatory styles, can reduce helplessness. In other words, people often need more than encouragement. They need credible experiences that demonstrate their actions make a difference. Learned helplessness does not mean people are giving up because they lack character. It describes a psychological adaptation to environments where outcomes have often seemed beyond one's control. Understanding it helps explain why two people with similar talents can respond very differently to setbacks. One sees a failure as temporary and tries again. The other, after years of uncontrollable adversity, concludes that trying is futile. That conclusion can become a self-fulfilling cycle unless new experiences restore a sense of agency and control.